Hi, it's John from Crafts by John UK. Today I'm going to talk about what we put inside our cards. So I have here a couple of Christmas cards I've made which are completely finished, and they have this lovely insert inside. And you can see I have different inserts for different size cards. This is a 6x6 and it has a square insert. Similar message, wishing you a happy Christmas and prosperous new year. But I've got here also a 7x5 card. Same message, obviously, with a different insert. I know people sometimes struggle with how to do inserts, so I'm going to show you how I do it. So first of all, let me just pop these two out of the way. Right, so I've got here a card which I've made with an insert, basically. I've got here a card I've made with no insert. So the card, when you make it, you literally use a card blank and you've got the basic shape of the card, but you've got nothing inside. So what I do, I have a template. Now I've created this in PowerPoint, but you could create it in many other different computer packages. But what I've done is I've used a ruler and I've measured things out. So if you take your insert, and it's an insert, for instance, for a 6x6 inch card, if you measure that, I think you'll find it's 13 by about 13. And if you look at that, it's 13 by 13. So what I've then done is I've created a grid on this card, and basically all of my grid lines are on the outer of what I'm going to cut with my guillotine. So I've got a grid line here that's pretty much 13 by 13. You can see on both sides, and then that way as well. So when I cut this, basically I cut it using those grid lines. Now I can't easily demonstrate on my guillotine how I would do it, so I'm just going to show you here. This one is ruined because I accidentally creased it, so I'm not going to use it anyway. It would be a piece of scrap paper. But what I do when I go to my guillotine, actually I'm just going to move out a little bit so you can see the whole thing. There we go. What I do when I come to my guillotine is I guillotine down here. And obviously I'm just cutting this manually, so it's not going to be perfect. But basically, in fact, I've made a real pig's ear of that. I cut that one first. I then cut this one second, and you'll see why in a moment. So that then separates. I then turn this around and I cut my third one. So I've now got my width correct for my two card bases. What I then do, and this is why I cut it the way I did, is I then flip it around and I cut here and obviously remove that piece. I cut here and remove that piece. Now, because all of my lines are on the outer, once I've cut everything, I'm finished with a card insert that's completely clean of any lines because they're all on the outside of what I've cut. So similarly, just to finish off, I would then cut this one and remove that outer piece, and then I would cut this one and remove that outer piece. So you do need to spend a little bit of time. You do need to get yourself some kind of a template that has the right measurements on it. But I have templates for all of my different card sizes. So you can see here, these are 7x5. These are 9x20 or DL upright. I've got some more 7x5s here. And then I've also got some DL landscape format. So I use these to fill all these cards. So basically this one would obviously take a DL landscape. This card, and some of these you'll have seen on other videos I've made, super cute Pigmas one. This one would take a DL insert upright, and a 7x5, I haven't got one ready in front of me, would obviously take a DL insert that way. Now how I actually put them into the cards, I'll show you. So I don't want to use those two bottom ones because they are very rough. But basically, I will show you on a proper card. So this Merry Pigmas card, obviously I've got to stick my insert here. So the first thing I do, flip it over, grab my double-sided tape, and I'd literally stick a couple of pieces of double-sided on the long edge that's going to go on the left-hand side of the insert once it's in the actual card. At that point, I would take my trusty craft tweezers, which I use to lift my tapes, and then I would take my card blank, and I always line up. If you line up using with your fingers on the right hand side, you can move because the paper kind of sits high on the left. So I'd line it up roughly on the right hand side, just check on the left, and then stick that down. That's now a completely ready card. If you have a stamp or something that you stick on the back, obviously, you know, made by John, whatever, but then that's absolutely fine, and that looks really professional. I print it with my Canon printer. You obviously need to be careful with smudging and stuff, but basically that's how I finish the card. So that's an example of an upright. Now I'll just show you on a landscape because it's not maybe the process you think. So I would take my double-sided, stick a couple of bits onto that printed inner, use my tweezers to just lift those tapes, and make sure that you do, if you have any edges that are not completely flat, just stretch them out because you can notice the bumps. But what I would do, I would not stick it this way because that is quite hard to get in the right place. I would always do it upright. So get your insert in the right place, just eyeballing that, moving it bit by bit, and then similarly do the same thing. You're doing it upright, but obviously the card ends up that way round. I've found in my experience, if you try and do it this way, you up and down, up and down, up and down, and it sometimes goes completely wrong. So it's way easier to just do it upright. Obviously on a square card, you don't need to worry about it so much because you've got a fairly even, you know, border all the way around. But anyway, so I just thought you might find that helpful, just showing you how we do our inserts and showing you how to get them in the right place. Hope you've enjoyed that. Short one today, but anyway, it might be useful for some people and it might just help you with a little trick around how to get that right. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and maybe like and subscribe my channel. Have a good day and I'll catch you on my next video.